Your childhood dream used to look at you differently. Back then it had hope in its eyes. Now it looks at me the way retired athletes look at fast food commercials. Qui est disappointement, mixed with recognition. I noticed it one Tuesday night while standing in my kitchen eating shredded cheese directly from the bag like a raccoon with Wi-Fi access. I suddenly had the terrifying feeling that somewhere the version of me from childhood was watching, and he looked concerned, not angry. That would have been easier. Concerned is worse. Concerned means someone still believes you can do better. As a kid, I thought adulthood would feel cinematic. I thought there'd be moments where I'd stand dramatically near windows thinking about important things. Instead, adulthood is mostly passwords, stomach acid, and wondering why a package marked arriving today suddenly became spiritually unavailable. Nobody tells children that being an adult is just trying to keep tiny systems from collapsing. Your sleep schedule, your finances, your emotional stability. That one chair covered in clothes that slowly becomes part of the architecture. Children think adults have authority. Adults are just people who learned how to sigh professionally. When I was 8, I thought my future self would be extraordinary. Not famous necessarily, just alive correctly. I thought future me would wake up early, drink water intentionally, own matching furniture, and understand taxes without feeling hunted. Instead, I once ate cold pizza over the sink at 1 a.m. while watching a documentary about whales to avoid answering an email. And honestly, the whales seemed emotionally healthier than me. Scientists say your brain stops developing around age 25. Interesting. Because mine still reacts to unexpected phone calls like medieval villagers reacting to dragon sightings. Especially when the phone rings without warning, text first. Civilization exists for a reason. Sometimes I think childhood dreams are dangerous because children don't understand logistics. A child says, "I want to change the world." An adult says, "I hope nobody perceives me at the grocery store today." That's called character development. Or emotional weather damage. I remember wanting to become an inventor once, not because I liked engineering. I just thought inventors looked emotionally respected. Children misunderstand careers constantly. Kids see a musician and think, wow, freedom. They don't see the musician sitting on the floor at 14 a.m. eating cereal while Googling. Symptoms of burnout, but in a cool artistic way. That's adulthood. Realizing every dream job eventually becomes email. Even astronauts probably have meetings now. Imagine floating in space while someone says, "Quick reminder, everyone." I'd open the airlock myself. The saddest part is that your childhood dream never fully disappears. It just follows you quietly, like emotional background radiation. You'll be sitting at work pretending to care about spreadsheets. And suddenly remember that at age 10 you wanted to become a marine biologist because dolphins felt trustworthy. That emotional damage hits differently. Especially because children choose dreams based entirely on vibes. Astronaut, pirate, rock star, paleontologist. No child ever says, "I hope I grow up emotionally exhausted but excellent at replying sounds good." Yet here we are. Sometimes I think modern adulthood is just surviving things nobody evolved for. Humans developed brains for. Finding shelter, recognizing danger, and forming tribes, not for. LinkedIn, 76 unread notifications, and pretending circle back is a normal phrase. My childhood dream didn't prepare for this. He thought success meant happiness. Poor little idiot. I actually saw a motivational quote once that said, "Your younger self would be proud of you." That's emotionally risky. What if he wouldn't? What if childhood me saw my current life and quietly whispered, "Hey," that tiny O would destroy me psychologically. Because disappointment from your younger self feels pure, children still believe life is personal. Adults eventually realize most systems are just badly organized panic wearing office clothes. I think that's why nostalgia hurts. Not because the past was perfect, but because your younger self still believed the future contained answers. Now we have smart refrigerators and depression playlists. Technological progress is complicated. Scientists say memory changes every time you remember something. Which means technically your childhood exists now as a constantly edited emotional fanfiction that explains a lot. I barely remember actual events anymore. I remember feelings. Summer air, cartoons at strange hours. The excitement of buying snacks before a road trip. The emotional stability of not knowing what burnout meant. Children get tired physically. Adults get tired existentially. That's a terrible upgrade. One time I visited my parents' house and found an old drawing I made as a kid. It said, "Future me, stick figure." Big smile. Rocket ship nearby for some reason. Underneath it I had written, "I help people and have cool shoes, honestly." That kid had clearer priorities than most CEOs. And for a second I genuinely felt guilty, not because I failed, but because somewhere along the way I became practical instead of alive. That's the real danger. Not failure, not embarrassment. Not even heartbreak, practicality. Practicality slowly eats weirdness. You stop trying strange things. You stop dressing interestingly. You stop saying ideas out loud. Eventually, your personality becomes comfort, routine, and knowing exactly which pain in your back means stress. Children create identities. Adults maintain damage. I once asked someone, "When do people finally feel like adults?" He laughed for 10 straight seconds. That felt medically significant. Then he said, "You just become more tired and people start asking you for advice. Horrifying system." I think many adults secretly feel like frauds because their younger selves expected emotional heroes. Instead, we became people who say things like, "I need a weekend to recover from my weekend." That sentence alone would confuse ancient civilizations. Even rest became complicated. People don't relax anymore. They optimize recovery, sleep tracking, blue light glasses, magnesium supplements, apps that remind you to breathe like your organs outsourced management. Meanwhile, your childhood self would probably be happy eating cereal on the floor watching cartoons. Children understand joy instinctively. Adults need podcasts explaining how to experience sunlight correctly. I heard someone say, "Romanticize your life." Brother, my laundry basket has achieved permanent citizenship in the bedroom. We're trying our best. And yet, there are moments where your younger self suddenly reappears. Tiny flashes. You laugh too hard at something stupid. You stay awake talking to someone you genuinely like. You hear a song that rearranges your nervous system slightly. You make something for no reason. And suddenly childhood you looks less disappointed, not impressed exactly, but relieved, like, oh good. You're still in there somewhere. That's the weird thing. Children don't actually expect perfection from their future selves. They expect honesty. Children forgive failure surprisingly easily, but they notice emptiness immediately. You can't trick a child into thinking a lifeless person is successful. Kids instinctively know when someone stopped being real. That's why certain adults scare children. Not because they're mean, because they feel emotionally abandoned. I think many people become obsessed with productivity because productivity feels measurable, meaning doesn't, you can track. Steps, income, calories, hours slept. But you can't quantify whether your soul still recognizes itself. That's inconvenient for capitalism. Scientists say humans need purpose to maintain psychological health. Unfortunately, modern purpose often becomes replying to emails fast enough to afford groceries. That feels spiritually incorrect. One of the strangest adult experiences is realizing that nobody arrives. There's no final version of you. No moment where anxiety disappears and orchestral music starts playing while you confidently buy furniture. Everyone is improvising. Some people just improvise louder. As a kid, I thought adults were hiding secrets. Now I realize they were hiding exhaustion. Big difference. Sometimes I imagine sitting across from childhood me at a diner. He'd ask questions, dangerous questions. Are we happy? That one alone could cause structural damage. I wouldn't know how to answer honestly. Because of pure misery. That would actually be simpler. It's stranger than that. You can feel grateful and lost simultaneously. Successful and exhausted. Loved and emotionally unavailable. Connected and deeply lonely while holding a device capable of contacting almost anyone on Earth, humans are complicated little disasters. I think childhood dreams become disappointed when adults stop paying attention to wonder. Not ambition, wonder, because children don't dream in salaries. They dream in feelings. Adventure, freedom, curiosity, meaning nobody age 7 fantasizes about optimizing quarterly performance metrics. That horror develops naturally over time. I saw a man eating yogurt in traffic once with the expression of someone who no longer believed in miracles. That image changed me spiritually. Modern life slowly turns everyone into emotionally exhausted side characters in commercials for medication. And your younger self notices. He notices every time you silence yourself to appear normal. Every time you abandon something you love because it isn't efficient. Every time you call your exhaustion being realistic. That phrase is dangerous, being realistic. Many dreams die inside that sentence politely. Of course, some childhood dreams are impossible. You probably won't become a dinosaur trainer, a ninja scientist, or whatever emotionally unstable combination your brain invented at age 9. But maybe that was never the point. Maybe childhood dreams weren't predictions. Maybe they were clues. Tiny emotional instructions left by a version of you that still understood what made life feel alive. That changes things. Because suddenly your younger self isn't judging your achievements. He's asking, did you keep anything important? Your curiosity, your humor, your softness, your ability to care about ridiculous things deeply. Or did adulthood sand all the edges off your soul until you became emotionally compatible with meetings? That's the real nightmare. Not failure. Professionalism without humanity. One day I realized something while watching the sky for no reason like an unemployed philosopher. My childhood self never expected perfection. He expected movement, energy, presence, a person who still reacted to life instead of merely processing it, and maybe that's enough. Maybe healing isn't becoming the person your younger self imagined exactly. Maybe it's simply becoming someone he wouldn't feel lonely around. What do you do if your childhood dream looks disappointed in you? You stop trying to impress it and start trying to recognize it again. Because somewhere underneath the stress, the deadlines, the notifications, the carefully managed exhaustion, there is still a version of you that wanted life to feel real. Not optimized. Not aesthetic, not marketable, real. And honestly, that kid might still save your life.